The studio lights blazed hot against Mark Wahlberg's face as he settled into the plush burgundy chair across from Lydia Harper. 20 years in Hollywood had taught him to mask his nerves, but today felt different. His hands rested calmly on his knees, yet his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, a tell that his publicist would have caught if she'd been watching closely instead of scrolling through her phone backstage. And we're back in 3, 2, 1. The floor manager's finger pointed at Lydia, and her $1,000,000 smile instantly illuminated the set of the Lydia Harper Show. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with the incredibly talented Mark Wahlberg, and let me tell you, this man needs no introduction. The audience erupted in practiced applause, their enthusiasm genuine but orchestrated. Lydia's eyes sparkled with the kind of warmth that had made her America's favorite daytime confidant for over a decade. Mark, it's always such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for having me, Lydia. Always good to see you. Mark's Boston accent carried its usual charm, but something in his tone made the veteran host's smile flicker for just a fraction of a second. She'd interviewed thousands of celebrities, and she knew when someone was holding back. Behind the cameras, Evan Cruz stood with his arms crossed, clipboard forgotten in his hand. The show's executive producer had orchestrated this dance countless times. Softball questions, rehearsed anecdotes, promotional sound bites that would play perfectly on social media. But Mark's body language was all wrong. Instead of the relaxed posture of a star promoting his latest blockbuster, he sat forward slightly, alert, like a man preparing for battle. So tell us about your new film, Lydia continued, her voice honey-smooth. I hear it's got everything: action, heart, and of course, your signature intensity that audiences love so much. Mark nodded, but his eyes drifted briefly to the red recording light above camera 2. Millions of people were watching. Millions of people who trusted Lydia, who believed in the carefully crafted illusion of authenticity that talk shows had perfected. They deserved better than the scripted theater they were being fed. Yeah, the film's great, he said slowly. But you know what, Lydia? I've been thinking a lot lately about authenticity, about what's real versus what we're told is real. His publicist looked up from her phone, alarm bells ringing in her head. Lydia's laugh was perfectly calibrated, warm but slightly confused, the sound of someone gently redirecting a conversation back to safer territory. Well, that's very philosophical of you, but speaking of real, the chemistry between you and your co-star is absolutely electric on screen. Is it though? Mark interrupted, his voice gaining an edge that made Evan straighten up behind the cameras. Or, is that just what we're supposed to say? What we're told to say? The studio audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the Mark Wahlberg they expected. Charming, promotional, safe. This was someone else entirely, someone who looked like he was about to burn down everything they thought they knew. Mark, let's talk about your upcoming projects. Lydia tried again, her voice tightening almost imperceptibly. No. Mark's single word cut through the studio like a blade. I'm done playing along with this circus, Lydia. I'm done pretending everything's fine when it's not. The cameramen exchanged glances. In the control room, the director's hand hovered over the commercial break button. This wasn't in the script. Mark leaned forward, his eyes boring into the camera. You want to know what's real? I'll tell you what's real. This industry, these shows, these networks, they've been lying to you for decades. Silencing people who won't play their game. Covering up scandals that would make your skin crawl. Mark, I think maybe you're having a difficult day. Lydia's media-trained instincts kicked in, her smile straining as she tried to salvage the interview. Difficult day? Mark's laugh was bitter. Lydia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. How many guests have been told to stay quiet about what they've seen? How many stories have been buried because they didn't fit the narrative you wanted to sell? The studio fell deadly silent. Even the audience seemed to hold its breath. They threaten careers, Lydia. They destroy families. And shows like yours. You're not just complicit. You're the weapon they use to do it. Mark's voice rose with each word. Years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. You smile and laugh and make everyone feel safe while the machine churns behind the cameras, eating people alive. Lydia's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. In the control room, Evan Cruz watched in stunned fascination as 20 years of carefully maintained illusions crumbled in real time. "We need to go to commercial," Lydia whispered to her producer, her microphone still live. But Mark wasn't finished. "The audience deserves to know the truth about what this industry really is. And I'm going to make sure they get it." Within minutes of the broadcast ending, social media exploded. Hashtag Wahlberg Truth and hashtag Lydia battled for trending supremacy as clips of the meltdown spread across every platform. In corporate boardrooms across Los Angeles and New York, phones rang incessantly. "Get me the head of programming now." Network executives who'd been enjoying their morning coffee suddenly found themselves in crisis mode. The switchboards lit up like Christmas trees, half the callers demanding Mark's head, the other half praising him as a hero. Back at the studio, Lydia Harper sat in her dressing room, her perfect makeup streaked with tears of rage. Her assistant hovered nearby, fielding calls from sponsors who were, quote, concerned about their brand association. Coca-Cola was the first to pull their ads. Mercedes followed 30 minutes later. 20 years, Lydia whispered to her reflection. 20 years I've built this empire, and this maniac thinks he can destroy it with one tantrum? 3 floors up, Evan Cruz paced his office like a caged animal. His phone buzzed with text after text, some from colleagues demanding to know how they'd let this happen, others from industry insiders whispering about secrets they'd kept buried for years. One message made him stop cold. Maybe it's time someone finally told the truth. You know what I'm talking about. J.M. Julia Martinez, the young actress who disappeared from the spotlight 2 years ago after what the official story called a, quote, a breakdown. Evan remembered the real story. How she'd been blacklisted after refusing to stay quiet about a powerful producer's indecent proposal. How her career had been systematically destroyed as a warning to others. Across town, investigative journalist Tessa Raymond watched the clips for the 5th time, her pulse quickening with each viewing. She'd been trying to crack the entertainment industry's code of silence for 3 years, accumulating fragments of evidence that no major outlet would touch. Her phone rang. "Ms. Raymond? This is Mark Wahlberg's representative. Mr. Wahlberg would like to speak with you." Meanwhile, in a modest suburban home, Anthony Vega stared at his television screen in disbelief. He'd watched Lydia Harper religiously for 8 years, trusted her like family. His wife found him still sitting there an hour later. "Tony, what's wrong?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," he said quietly. "If Mark's right, if they've been lying to us all this time." Mark's Brentwood home had become a fortress. Paparazzi camped outside his gates while his phone buzzed with calls from reporters, agents, and studio heads, most wanting him to recant, a few quietly offering support. He'd turned off the news after seeing himself described as everything from Hollywood's conscience to a washed-up actor having a midlife crisis. The doorbell rang at exactly 3 p.m. Through the security monitor, Mark saw a woman in her 30s with determined eyes and a weathered messenger bag slung over her shoulder. "Ms. Raymond," he said, opening the door himself. "Thanks for coming." Tessa stepped inside, glancing around nervously. "Before we start, you should know. I've been investigating this industry for 3 years. What you said on television? It's just the tip of the iceberg." She opened her bag and pulled out 3 thick manila folders. "I have recordings, internal memos, financial records, studios paying hush money, networks killing stories, the whole machine designed to protect the powerful and silence everyone else." Mark's hands trembled slightly as he opened the first folder. Financial documents showed payments labeled as, quote, consulting fees going to victims' families. Email chains revealed coordinated efforts to discredit whistleblowers. Voice recordings captured executives laughing about managing the narrative. "Jesus," Mark whispered. "How long has this been going on?" "Decades. Maybe longer." Tessa sat forward. "But here's the thing. I could never get anyone credible enough to go on record. Until now." Across town, Evan Cruz sat in his car outside a coffee shop in Venice, hands shaking as he dialed a number he'd memorized but never called. "Tessa?" "It's Evan Cruz from Harper Productions." He took a deep breath. "I saw your articles about industry cover-ups. I think I need to talk to you." Mr. Cruz, this is unexpected. I've been part of it, he interrupted. The whole system Mark was talking about. I helped build it, and I can't do it anymore. He watched pedestrians walk by. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the rot festering in the entertainment they consumed. I have recordings, internal communications, things that prove Mark was right about everything. Back at Mark's house, Tessa spread documents across his kitchen table like a war map. The question is, are you ready for what comes next? Because once we release this, there's no going back. They'll come at you with everything they have. Mark thought of his family, his faith, the values his mother had instilled in him growing up in Dorchester. I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it until yesterday. The first expose hit at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, uploaded simultaneously to YouTube, Twitter, and an independent news blog that Tessa had cultivated for years. The headline read, "Leaked. Internal memos reveal talk show cover-ups and guest manipulation." Within hours, the internet was ablaze. The leaked documents showed email chains where producers discussed massaging guest testimonies, burying uncomfortable questions, and coordinating with network legal teams to silence potential whistleblowers. Audio recordings captured executives laughing about manipulating audience emotions for ratings. In suburban Phoenix, Anthony Vegas sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open, scrolling through the leaked materials with growing horror. His wife Maria peered over his shoulder as a voice recording played, a producer joking about how they'd handled a domestic violence survivor who'd tried to go off script about her famous abuser. "My God, Tony," Maria whispered. "We trusted these people. We invited them into our home every day." Anthony's hands clenched into fists. For 8 years, he defended Lydia Harper against critics, praised her empathy, recommended her show to friends. "I feel like such an idiot," he muttered. "How could I have been so blind?" The response was swift and vicious. By noon, every major network was running expert analysis, questioning the authenticity of the leaks. Lydia Harper appeared on 3 different shows, her voice steady despite the storm raging around her. "This is clearly a coordinated attack on our industry," she declared on CNN. "Mark Wahlberg is a troubled man seeking attention, and these so-called journalists are exploiting his mental health crisis for clicks." But the damage was spreading. #TalkShowlies began trending globally as viewers shared their own stories of feeling manipulated by their favorite programs. Former guests started coming forward with accounts of being coached, threatened, or blacklisted. At Harper Productions, the mood was funeral dark. Evan Cruz watched from his office as senior staff held emergency meetings, their voices echoing through the hallways. His assistant knocked tentatively. "Mr. Cruz? Legal wants to see you. They're asking about your access to the internal servers." Evan's blood ran cold. They suspected him. In 30 minutes, they'd discover his unauthorized file transfers. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator, pulling out his phone to text Tessa. "They know. Going underground. More evidence coming tonight." As the elevator descended, Evan realized there was no turning back now. The machine he'd helped build for 20 years was finally eating itself alive. The counterattack began at dawn. Every tabloid, gossip site, and entertainment show launched a coordinated assault on Mark Wahlberg's character. Wahlberg's breakdown, friends' fear for actors' mental health, screamed the headlines. Paparazzi photos showed him looking haggard outside his home, carefully cropped to suggest instability. TMZ ran a segment featuring unnamed sources, claiming Mark had been increasingly paranoid and erratic on recent film sets. Entertainment Tonight aired a package questioning his religious beliefs and suggesting his Catholic faith had made him judgmental and unstable. The attacks were surgical, designed to undermine his credibility without directly addressing his accusations. Mark sat in his living room, watching his reputation get dismantled in real time. His phone buzzed with a text from his manager. "Studio pulling you from 3 projects. Need to discuss damage control ASAP." "They're good at this," he muttered to Tessa, who sat beside him with her laptop open, documenting every attack. 20 years building a career, and they can destroy it in 48 hours. But Lydia Harper wasn't content with just discrediting Mark. She was preparing her masterstroke. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced during a special live broadcast, "tomorrow we'll be hosting a panel of mental health experts, industry veterans, and concerned colleagues to address the dangerous conspiracy theories plaguing our industry. It's time to separate fact from fiction." Quote, "Behind the scenes, the coordination was ruthless. Network executives had called in favors, pressured advertisers, and mobilized their publicity machines. They painted Tessa Raymond as a failed journalist, desperate for relevance, questioning why legitimate outlets wouldn't touch her so-called evidence. But in a dingy motel room in Burbank, Evan Cruz was fighting back. Using an encrypted laptop, he uploaded gigabytes of additional files to a secure server. His hands shook as he attached recordings that would make the previous leaks look tame. Conversations about silencing assault victims, bribing witnesses, destroying careers of anyone who threatened the system. The crown jewel was a recording from 6 months ago, Lydia Harper herself, discussing how to neutralize a young actress who'd threatened to expose a powerful producer's sexual misconduct. "We'll destroy her credibility first." Lydia's voice crackled through the speakers. "Make her look unstable, unreliable. Then we'll make sure she never works again. The others will get the message." Evan attached the file to an encrypted email and hit send. Tomorrow's panel would be Lydia's last stand, and her downfall. "Let's see you spin this," he whispered into the darkness. The live taping of Rising Star Spotlight was supposed to be routine, 22-year-old Clara Jensen promoting her breakout role in an indie film that had critics buzzing. But as she sat across from host Derek Matthews, Clara felt the familiar tightness in her chest that came with scripted conversations and manufactured moments. "So Clara, tell us about your character's journey," Derek said with practiced enthusiasm, reading from the teleprompter. Clara stared at him for a long moment, then turned directly to camera 2. "You know what? No, I'm not doing this anymore." The studio audience stirred uneasily. In the control room, the director frantically gestured for Derek to regain control. "I watched Mark Wahlberg tell the truth 2 weeks ago, and you all crucified him for it," Clara continued, her voice gaining strength. "Well, here's some more truth for you. 3 months ago, I was told that if I didn't play nice with a certain producer, my career would be over before it started. When I refused, suddenly my film's distribution got delayed, my publicist dropped me, and offers stopped coming." Derek tried to interrupt, but Clara pressed on. "They coach us on what to say, how to smile, which stories to tell, and which to bury. They turn us into products, and when we try to be human, they remind us that we're replaceable." In the audience, phones appeared like fireflies, recording every word. A college student in the 3rd row live-streamed to her Instagram, where the clip immediately began spreading. "This industry protects predators and punishes victims," Clara declared. "And shows like this one are part of the machine that keeps it all running." At home in Phoenix, Anthony Vega watched with his wife and teenage daughter. His daughter looked at him with new respect. "Dad, you were right to stop watching those other shows." For the first time in weeks, Anthony smiled. Sometimes the truth comes from the most unexpected places. Back in the studio, Clara stood up, unclipped her microphone, and walked off the set. The audience erupted in spontaneous applause that the producers couldn't stop. The battle lines were drawn. On one side, the established entertainment complex with its billion-dollar machinery of spin and control. On the other, a growing coalition of truth-tellers armed with evidence and righteous anger. Lydia Harper's emergency panel aired live at 8 p.m. Eastern, featuring 3 psychiatrists, 2 industry veterans, and a crisis management expert. The set was designed to project authority, dark wood paneling, serious lighting, the kind of gravitas reserved for discussing national emergencies. "We're here to address the dangerous conspiracy theories that have infected our industry," Lydia began, her voice steady despite the storm raging around her career. "Mental health is no joke, and we cannot allow one man's breakdown to destroy the careers of thousands of hardworking professionals." But across town, Mark and Tessa had set up their own war room. Using borrowed equipment in an independent podcast studio, they launched a counter-broadcast that drew 2 million viewers in the first hour. The contrast was stark. No fancy sets or manufactured authority, just raw truth delivered from a cramped room with exposed brick walls. "While Lydia talks about mental health," Mark said, looking directly into the camera, Let's listen to what she said about silencing assault victims. Evan's bombshell recording filled the airwaves. Lydia's voice, cold and calculating, discussing the systematic destruction of a young actress who dared to speak up. The audio was crystal clear, authenticated by digital forensics experts Tessa had consulted. On Lydia's panel, the psychiatrists were explaining the psychology of persecution complexes when phones began buzzing throughout the studio audience. The leaked recording was spreading faster than wildfire across social media. "This is clearly doctored audio," Lydia declared when confronted, but her voice cracked. Deepfake technology can manufacture anything these days. Meanwhile, Evan emerged from hiding with a flash drive containing terabytes of additional evidence. Security footage, financial records, a paper trail spanning 2 decades of cover-ups and corruption. He appeared via secure video link on Mark and Tessa's stream, his face gaunt but determined. "I helped build this system," he confessed. "I buried stories, destroyed careers, silenced victims. But no more. Here's everything." The ratings told the story. Lydia's panel, despite airing on network television, was hemorrhaging viewers to an independent live stream hosted by a disgraced actor and a blacklisted journalist. The establishment was losing control of the narrative, one viewer at a time. The final blow came at 11:47 p.m., delivered by an unlikely source. A junior sound engineer at Harper Productions, inspired by Evan's courage and Clara's defiance, released 36 hours of raw audio files, conversations recorded during commercial breaks, off-the-record discussions, and private meetings in Lydia's dressing room. The most damning clip was 18 minutes of Lydia coordinating with network executives to handle a sexual assault survivor who tried to speak out during a segment about workplace harassment. "We can't let her derail the show," Lydia's voice was unmistakable. "Edit around her, cut to commercial early, and make sure she never gets booked anywhere again. I want her blacklisted from every network by Friday." By dawn, #LyDiaries had exploded into the #1 trending topic worldwide. The network issued a terse statement. "Lydia Harper has been suspended indefinitely pending a full investigation into these serious allegations." In Phoenix, Anthony Vega sat at his kitchen table with his morning coffee, reading news articles about the woman he'd once admired. His wife found him there an hour later staring at his laptop screen. "I was wrong, Maria," he said quietly. "For 8 years I defended her. I told people she was genuine, that she cared about her guests. I feel like I was part of the lie." His teenage daughter, Emily, sat down beside him. "Dad, you couldn't have known. That's what makes it so evil. They were experts at hiding it." Anthony looked at his daughter with new respect. "When did you get so wise?" "Probably around the time I stopped believing everything I saw on TV," Emily replied with a sad smile. Across the country, talk show ratings plummeted. Good Morning America lost 3 million viewers in a week. The View faced sponsor boycotts. Local affiliates received thousands of calls from viewers demanding answers about their own programming. The empire Lydia had built over 2 decades crumbled in 72 hours. But more than her career was destroyed, the entire foundation of trust between daytime television and its audience had shattered. In her Beverly Hills mansion, Lydia Harper sat alone in her media room, surrounded by 20 years of Emmy Awards and photographs with celebrities. Her phone had stopped ringing. Her agents weren't returning calls. Even her housekeeper had quit. The woman who'd once been America's confidant was now America's most hated figure, and she had no one left to silence. 6 months later, Mark Wahlberg stood on a makeshift stage in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, looking out at an audience of 200 people, journalists, activists, former entertainment industry workers, and ordinary citizens who'd grown tired of manufactured reality. "We're not here to replace the old system with another version of the same lie," Mark said into a simple handheld microphone. "We're here to build something different, something honest." Behind him sat Clara Jensen, Tessa Raymond, and Evan Cruz. No flashy set design, no teleprompters, no corporate sponsors. Just 4 people who'd chosen truth over comfort, and the community that had grown around them. The Honest Hour, as their weekly broadcast had come to be known, reached 3 million viewers across YouTube, podcast platforms, and a growing network of independent stations. It wasn't polished. Conversations sometimes meandered. Technical glitches were acknowledged with humor rather than panic, and guests were encouraged to speak their minds without fear of being edited or silenced. "Evan, you wanted to share something," Mark said, turning to his unlikely ally. Evan leaned forward, his face bearing the weight of his redemption journey. "I got a call this week from Julia Martinez. Remember her? The actress who was blacklisted for speaking up. She's directing her first film now, telling her own story. That's what happens when we stop protecting the predators and start supporting the survivors." In Phoenix, Anthony Vega watched with his family, but this time the experience felt different. His daughter Emily had started her own YouTube channel examining media manipulation, while Anthony himself had become a volunteer fact-checker for independent news outlets. "You know what I love about this?" Maria said, curled up beside her husband on their couch. "They're not trying to be perfect. They're just trying to be real." Clara spoke last, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd found her power. "We've proven that people are hungry for authenticity. The old system collapsed because it was built on lies. Whatever comes next has to be built on something stronger." Mark nodded, looking directly into the camera. "Truth isn't always comfortable. It's not always entertaining, but it's the only foundation worth building on." As the credits rolled over footage of their grassroots operation, a new chapter in media was being written. One conversation, one honest moment, one brave voice at a time. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us. Quote,